This cookie is delicious. I love cookies. You want to know what else I love? Science. I wonder what the science behind the cookie is.
Science is pretty cool. Good thing Dr. Cookie and me, Professor Chemical Reaction, can explain this to you.
Yay! I'm so excited to hear all about this.
The structure of a baked good like a cookie has to be built from the ground up, and every ingredient, flour, sugar, fat, eggs, leaven, and salt, play a key role. Professor Chemical Reaction and I will explain the science behind the way that these ingredients work to create both flavor and structure.
Let's start by talking about one of the most fundamental ingredients in cookies, flour. Depending on its ratio to the other ingredients in the dough, flour can make cookies chewy or crisp or crumbly. In a dry cookie like shortbread, a high proportion of flour and a small amount of liquid in the butter produces a tender and crumbly texture.
Thanks, Professor Chemical Reaction. That was so sweet. Now let me talk about something almost as sweet as you, sugar.
That does sound pretty sweet.
Aside from adding sweetness, granulated white sugar makes cookies browner due to caramelization and crisper due to the absorption of moisture in the dough. The proportion of sugar in most cookie dough recipes is so high that only about half of the sugar dissolves during mixing. During baking, more of that sugar dissolves, which causes the dough to soften and to spread.
So true, Dr. Cookie. Now let me talk about fat. Shortening and butter, which are forms of fat, make cookies more tender. When mixed into flour, fat coats some of the flour and protects it from the liquid in some recipes. This prevents the gluten from developing, making the cookies more tender and less chewy.
Nice! Now for a breakfast food making a guest appearance in cookies. Eggs! These are a major source of moisture and protein in cookie dough. The liquid in eggs gives cookies a structure by bonding with the starch and protein in the flour. And their protein helps to make the cookie chewy.
Eggs? That's crazy! I guess I didn't know what happened to cookies behind the scenes.
Now I'll talk about leavens. In most baked goods, baking soda, which is a bicarbonate of soda, acts as a rising agent. But in cookies, it's much more important for encouraging browning. It does so by neutralizing acidic ingredients in dough, such as brown sugar, honey, vanilla, butter, which would normally inhibit browning.
Wow, so sciencey.
Sure is. Finally, I'll talk about salt. Without this flavor enhancer, the secondary flavors in a cookie fall flat, as the sweetness would take over. Salt also strengthens the protein in dough, making the cookies even chewier.
Don't forget to talk beyond the ingredients. A number of other key elements can affect the way your cookies bake. For example, mixing. Mixing will develop the gluten in the dough, giving cookies a chewier consistency. Having fat in the dough will inhibit the gluten development, so a high-fat dough doesn't have the same toughening problem. Next, shaping. Round dough balls take longer to bake, resulting in a softer, thicker cookie, whereas flattening the balls yields a thinner, crispier cookie. Also spacing. High-fat dough or cookies baked at low temperatures spread more and need about 2 inches of space in between them, whereas high-flour cookies or those baked for a shorter time need only about 1 inch. You can take it from here, Dr. Cookie.
Sure thing. Time and temperature work together in baking. A low temperature and longer baking time yields crisper, thinner cookies, whereas a higher temperature and short baking times makes a softer, thinner cookie. Ovens can also vary, so for accurate temperatures, check yours with a thermometer. For even heating, use heavy gauge aluminum baking sheets and line the pans with parchment to minimize hot spots, prevent sticking, and speed up your cleanup. Cooling your cookies is also important. On top of preventing burning your mouth, if you don't let your cookies cool before storing them, you will trap steam, causing a soggy cookie, and no one wants a soggy cookie. Anyways, that's all from Professor Chemical Reaction and me. I hope that you enjoyed learning about the science behind cookies.
Yummy! I cannot wait to eat more cookies now that I know the science behind them.
Sweet, sweet cookies!